Complete heavy metal lore explored. Today we ring in nostalgia by covering two classic animated movies strictly for adults. Heavy Metal was inspired by an iconic sci-fi magazine of the same name. It featured characters and plots that appeared in the magazine. Both films have a Canadian origin, and while the first film came out in 1981, almost 2 decades later, a sequel happened. The two films share a similar source of evil called Loch Ness, disturbing the delicate balance of life. The first film is an epitome of what happens when clever writing meets visionary individuals, while the sequel is considered an epic fail. While opinions may vary, we are here to look into both tales.
Did you miss me?
The first movie is a total 80s game changer that has us sticking to our seats with awe. It was crazy, iconic, raunchy, and mind-bogglingly hedonistic, directed by Gerald Potterton. With a screenplay written by Daniel Goldberg and Len Blum, there is a total of 8 segments, including an epilogue that ties up the rest. Goldberg and Blum are a famous Canadian duo that has also worked together for Meatballs, 1979, and Stripes, 1981. Heavy Metal is their third endeavor, and it is an animated film so legendary that it turned around a $9 million film into a $20 million box office success. The first segment, titled Soft Landing, begins with a green orb floating into space, and then a space shuttle releases a 1960 Corvette. The astronaut driving the car makes a smooth landing and rides through a crop field to reach his mansion in the middle of nowhere. It is assumed that Elon Musk copied the scene during the launch of Tesla with the astronaut dummy Starman in 2018. Next, in Grimaldi, the astronaut is introduced as the titular character. He disembarks the space car carrying a briefcase which contains the glowing green orb. Grimaldi's daughter runs down the staircase and inquires what he has brought for her, and Grimaldi promises to show it. However, as soon as Grimaldi opens the case, the green orb rises and in its green light disintegrates him into nothing. The young girl watches in horror as the green orb approaches her and introduces itself as Loch Ness, the sum of all evils. Loch Ness orders the girl to look into the orb and see how Loch Ness has the power to affect the lives of people beyond space and time. He claims the girl is now in his control and threatens her.
Hand over your cash. Now!
And so we get into the first story of Harry Canyon. The segment is an original story by Goldberg and Blum, which is based on The Long Tomorrow by Moebius. It begins with an archaeologist making alien workers drill into the desert and find the green orb, which disintegrates the workers as soon as they touch it. Cut to the city, where Harry Canyon reads the news about Loch Ness and crumples the paper. Harry is a cynical cab driver living in New York in 2031. We get through the events of the story as Harry narrates it sardonically. The city has gone to ruins and is overrun with hoodlums, aliens, and humans alike. However, Harry is prepared. When a passenger tries to rob him, Harry burns him down by using the disintegrator ray installed in his cab. But Harry is soon about to encounter Loch Ness. As Harry drives near the Metropolitan Building, he comes across a red-haired damsel in distress, running from Venusians who want the Loch Ness. Rudnik, the Venusian gangster, has killed the girl's archaeologist father. Harry takes the girl to the nearest police station, but she has passed out, and the police don't care. When the police straight up ask for payment, Harry gives them $1 and leaves with the girl. He takes her back to his apartment, which is not half bad, considering he is just a cabbie in rundown New York. However, the lady would rather sleep with Harry, but the next morning she is gone. Susan Roman's seductive, tortured voice can do no harm, but she tries too hard, and words get lost, while Richard Romanus' husky, nonchalant voice does more than justice to Harry Canyon. Harry gets threatened by Rudnik, who seems to be well aware of Harry's disintegrator button, and later, Harry receives a message to meet the girl who rocked his bed last night. Harry fends off alien henchmen and meets the girl, who shows him the Loch Ness. The girl tells him that she wants to sell it to Rudnik and get rid of it. They agree to split it in half, but later the girl decides to take it all. Loch Ness burns Rudnik, and Harry burns the girl as she threatens him with a gun. Harry signs off the deal as a 2-day ride with one hell of a tip. Harry Canyon's story is not meteoric, but plays well into the trope source of all evil. There's a sharp character build-up, with a not-so-placid climax, which does a good job in keeping us hooked for the next one. The second story, Den, begins with young and bespectacled nerd David Ellis Norman finding the Loch Ness in his backyard. With the orb resting in his lab as a part of his rock collection, the little nerd gets into a random experiment. When lightning strikes the orb, it glows, and David gets transmutated into the body of a bald, muscular, very naked man called Den, which is the acronym for David Ellis Norman. Den appears in a world called Neverwhere. Unlike Neverwhere, North American movie standards can't have Den's dork hanging out, and so he finds a piece of cloth to hide his stuff. And then he witnesses a ritualistic sacrifice of a semi-naked woman, conducted by a semi-naked queen to the infamous Ulutek. Okay, we don't know who that is, neither do Den, so he jumps in to save the woman and dives into a pool, carrying the unconscious lady underwater. Ulutek is actually Cthulhu spelled backwards, and according to H.P. Lovecraft's mythology, Cthulhu is the god of chaos. Just like Harry, this story is told from Den's POV and his internal musings, which, given his age on Earth, are rightfully childish. As gratitude for saving her life, the well-endowed Catherine Wells from Gibraltar is ready to serve sexual favours, but they are interrupted by a group of ape men. According to the original story, Catherine is an 80-year-old woman on Earth and was similarly transported to Neverwhere by Loch Ness. The apes take Den and Catherine to their leader. Ard is a human ruler with a penchant for theatrics. He takes Catherine hostage and keeps her enclosed in a glass coffin, deep in sleep. Okay, so Catherine is Snow White for adults. Ard demands that if Den wants his dame back, Den must get the Loch Ness from the Queen. Den agrees and infiltrates the Queen's castle with Ard's minions. They also escape getting mauled by a beast with 16-inch long teeth. However, as Den ventures into the dark room, he collides with the Queen's bosom and is caught red-handed. The Queen demands sex in exchange for his life, pissing off her minions, who by now are tired of her sexual promiscuity. Can Den get luckier? Twice in one day, he thinks to himself. At this point, we are amazed that Ard didn't throw himself at Den. On that note, John Candy's performance as Den is well appreciated by the creator of the story. Richard Corbin Den plays it smart and satisfies the Queen, while Ard's minions get the Loch Ness. As the Queen's minions inform her of the theft, the Queen attempts to kill Den, but he escapes and rides off to Ard's castle. Ard prepares to sacrifice Catherine, but Den disguises himself as one of the hooded minions and saves the girl. The Queen arrives and hassles for the Loch Ness scepter with Ard. Meanwhile, it's a bloody massacre as the Queen and Ard's minions fight each other. Amidst the fight, lightning strikes the orb again, and Den throws a spear to repeat the incident that happened in his lab. Ard and the Queen vanish as it probably takes them to Earth, while Den refuses to take Loch Ness for himself and rides off to the sunset for a better life with his muse, Catherine Wells. One of the most striking features of this animated film is that each segment has a different animation style, which is probably because different studios have animated the different stories. Den's story shows that Loch Ness exists in a different space and time, but brings forth murder and treachery into the canvas. As Den denies Loch Ness, it frees itself from the scepter and enters a space station. It diminishes to the size of a marble as it gets picked up by a man. We now move on to the story of Captain Stern, which is a character created by Bernie Wrightson. The titular character, Lincoln F. Stern, stands on trial by the Federation for numerous crimes of almost every kind. An angry alien crowd anxiously waits for the Federation to incriminate Stern for his various crimes. As the prosecutor dictates, there are 12 counts of murder, 18 counts of fraud, 37 counts of rape, 14 counts of armed theft of Federation property, 22 counts of space piracy, and 1 moving violation. However, Stern is stern about his not guilty stance, which leads to an uproar. Stern is voiced by famous Canadian actor and comedian Eugene Levy. Stern's lawyer breaks out in sweats and pleads with Stern to plead guilty. but Stern insists there is an angle. A man called Hanover Pfister is called to the witness stand. It's the same person who picked up the marbleized Loch Nar. Stern has promised to pay Pfister, and Mr. Pfister begins with praises for Captain Stern. However, as he plays with the green ball during testimony, something changes. He starts blurting out incriminating sentences against Stern and goes through a physical transformation. Soon, Pfister turns into a Hulk-sized human, chasing Stern through the labyrinth of the space station. An egg-shaped, floating, one-eyed robot helps Stern get away from Fist. In the original story, the robot is named Beezer and has 4 arms with a larger body size. When finally cornered, Stern gets out of being murdered by paying Fist the money he owes. The green paper brings Fist back to his original self, and Stern ejects him into space. As Fist dismembers in space, Loch Nar enters Earth's atmosphere, stuck in Fister's flaming and severed hand. In the original version, Hanover Pfister doesn't die. Captain Stern and Hanover Fist's segment might be the simplest one, but it played really well into bringing out the theme of heavy metal. The raw perversion of characters is nicely played out without nudity, but uses body horror justifiably. But hey, we are not complaining. The animation style is more Disney-like, and Captain Stern can be a fine addition to the Disney villain roster. In the next story, titled B-17, a World War II B-17 bomber called the Pacific Pearl drops a load of bombs on a city, and in return, it earns a few scratches and bullets. B-17 features the theme song of the film Heavy Metal, Taking a Ride by Don Felder, the lead guitarist of the band Eagles. As the bomber tries to make it back home, Holden, the co-pilot, goes back to check on the crew. He carefully walks across the plain, only to find dead comrades lying around. The dark, sketchbook-like artwork used by the studio to draw the interior of the aircraft adds a grim undertone to the story. Holden suddenly witnesses the green orb approaching the plane. Loch Nar attaches itself to the bomber, and a cylinder falls on Holden, knocking him out. The green energy from Loch Nar charges up the dead bodies, reanimating them into skeletal zombies. When Holden wakes up and tries to make it back to the cockpit, he gets attacked by one of the zombies. As Holden gets pulled down to the glass bubble of the aircraft, blood splatters, and Holden's scream can be heard, creating a noir slasher environment. Skip, the pilot, puts the plane in autopilot and tries to check what's going on. He finds the dead staring back. He escapes the bomber and parachutes down to an island, only to discover that it's a graveyard of airplanes. As Skip stands alone in the middle of the wreckage, he gets surrounded by zombie crew emerging from each plane. However, there is someone keeping a tab on the manifestations.
All right, I'll marry you, but on one condition. I want a Jewish wedding.
There's another segment called Neverwhere Land that connects Captain Stern and the B-17 storyline, but it was cut during the original production due to time constraints. It was about Loch Nar's influence on the evolution of the planet and its civilization. It showed how Loch Nar influenced the arrival of the Industrial Age, and then led to World War, the ultimate tool of evil. In 1996, the VHS release added the segment right at the end, whereas the DVD release added this segment as a bonus. Moving on to the next segment, So Beautiful and So Dangerous, the story begins with a certain Dr. Anrak arriving at the Pentagon to deliver his findings on the mysterious green radiation plaguing the United States, causing dangerous mutations. The very dignified scientist ignores the media and walks into the building. Amidst a very animated conversation among senators and military personnel, he quickly dismisses the existence of extraterrestrial life, or that something mildly inorganic is going on. Meanwhile, a massive starship, resembling that of a giant smiley emoticon, comes to a stop above the Pentagon. While delivering his speech, Dr. Anrak gets distracted by the green orb locket adorning the beautiful stenographer's bosom. The segment does not explain how the stenographer came across the Loch Nar pendant, except for the fact that Loch Nar is omnipresent. Like a rabid animal, Dr. Anrak jumps upon the woman, assaulting her sexually. At the same time, the spaceship drills into the building and sucks up Dr. Anrak, and along with him, Gloria, the stenographer. Due to something wrong with the pressure, Dr. Anrak crumbles into different parts, revealing he was just an android. The ship is manned by a cocky robot and two lazy, stoned aliens. The robot gets mad at the android, but Gloria's arrival changes his mood, and he offers her a drink as he takes her inside, while the ship's alien pilots, Edsel and Zeke, snort a colossal load of alien drug called plutonian Nyborg. The robot and Gloria indulge in some heavy metal robot sex. The robot offers to marry Gloria, but she claims to have a boyfriend back at home. Gloria also points out that mixed marriages don't work. It's a very legit doubt, as Gloria points out that she might find Robot screwing a toaster one day. However, with a little bit of persuasion, Robot manages to convince Gloria to marry him, but she has a condition. It must be a Jewish wedding, and Robot must be circumcised. Meanwhile, the zoned-out pilot and co-pilot make it back to a vast space station, with some dents here and there. There is obviously a lot going on here, and we have a lot of questions. But before any of that gets answered, let's appreciate what we saw here. Drug-snorting aliens and machine sex take leaps and bounds from the events of Neverwhere. It was also the precursor of the Netflix show Love, Death and Robots, which started out as a reboot of heavy metal. This segment is more in line with the events of Harry Canyon, and apart from the different animation style, there are more similarities between the plots. The horror show of B-17 was definitely in a league of its own, but with So Beautiful and So Dangerous, the creators have chosen to take a risk worth paying. Now, coming back to Loch Nar, the sum of all evil. He plans to kill Grimaldi's daughter, as she is the future that could bring his end. Before he ends it for her, Loch Nar forces the girl to see how his evil, destroyed humans, Loch Nar, has now turned into the size of a meteor, and it crashes onto a volcano, drawing the attention of pilgrims all around the world. This is an entirely original story, and not taken from the magazine. Once again, it's written by Goldberg and Blum, based on Arzak by Moebius. Since Moebius was also concerned about the environment, he drew water pipelines in the background. As the pilgrims start climbing the volcano, it erupts and green slime overflows, engulfing all in a green slimy soup. What emerges from the green river are evil green barbarians, grotesque and disfigured. As the savages attack a city, the leaders discuss their way of survival. The leader mentions Tana, a single warrior from the great warrior clan of Tarakians. As the leaders harmonize in summoning their savior, the barbarians enter the main hall to pillage and plunder. Tana, the gorgeous grey and white-haired warrior, a femme fatale if it were up to her, rides her avian mount to enter the holy shrine of Tarakians. The mount resembles a large bird and a reminiscence of pterodactyls. Tana takes a swim in a pool and ritualistically adorns herself in clothes befitting a warrior. Okay, the black leather and red ribbons might be a bit impractical, and a suit of armour would have worked better, but one can't deny the visually stunning spectacle of Tana dressing up. The film has used rotoscoping in several segments, like Den and Tana. It's a unique process of using an actor or actress to act out the scenes that were later traced out onto animations. Tana's long flight, putting on her costume, and several fight scenes were rotoscoped. Apart from this, CGI was also used in So Beautiful and So Dangerous. Tana charges up her sword and arrives at the city to find the mutilated bodies of the city's leaders. After deciding to avenge them, Tana follows the trail of the barbarians and finds herself in a bar. Some of the evil green men make a pass at her, but Tana beheads them before the bartender points her towards the mutant camp of the barbarians. However, Tana and her mount get captured, while a barbarian notices she is a Tarakian. Tana is probably a mute, as she doesn't deliver a single dialogue in the segment. The barbarian leader has Tana brought before him. She is restrained and stripped of her clothes. He flogs her with a whip and throws her into a pit along with her clothes. As Tana picks up her clothes, she hears the barbarians trying to kill her mount. The avian creature escapes and picks up Tana, but the barbarians impale the creature's neck with a spear. Tana and the barbarian leader engage in a one-to-one combat. He wounds Tana and is about to strike the death blow when the creature bites his leg, allowing Tana to kill him. The death of the living embodiment of his evil shakes up Loch Nar, and the volcano is about to erupt again. However, Tana and her mount sacrifice themselves to stop the eruption. Loch Nar warns that the sacrifice will be futile, but Tana ignores him. As Loch Nar gets destroyed, it also starts exploding inside the mansion. The young girl runs out of the house before Loch Nar explodes, destroying the house along with it. The sequence was supposed to be rotoscoped, but a sudden time constraint led to it being the only non-animated shot in the movie. Suddenly, a reincarnated version of Tana's mount appears, and the girl flies away on it. Her hair transforms into Tana's, while a Terrakian tattoo appears on her neck. Tana's reincarnation serves as the epilogue, and explains why Loch Nar wanted to kill Grimaldi's daughter. It may be just us, but Tana's segment was more 80s than the rest. Combined, Tana also became the poster girl of heavy metal, 1981. Now, let's talk about the music and the background score. The album charted in Billboard 200 at number 12 and included big names like Black Sabbath, Don Felder, Cheap Trick, Blue Oyster Cult, Nazareth, and more. This may come as a shock, but there's also an orchestral score by composer Elmer Bernstein and conducted by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, which is used in Tana's segment. However, licensing was also a big issue, which meant the home video was stopped from circulation for several good years. The remastered THX version also replaced several gruesome screams and screeches from B-17 with music. There's no doubt the film received mixed reviews from critics. It has often been dubbed an opportunity lost and blamed for a crass storyline. And of course, the movie has its fair share of flaws. But what started as an anthology of stories adapted from a magazine quickly became a cult favorite and know-how book for graphic violence and sexuality in animated movies. Coming on to the 2000 version, which is also known as Heavy Metal, FAKK2 stands for Federation Assigned Ketogenic Kill Zone to the second level. It's directed by Michael Koldewey and Michel Lemire, with a screenplay written by Robert P. Cabine and Carl Matek of Robotech fame. The film was released by Sony Pictures Home Entertainment DVD collection and had a budget of $15 million. Although it lacked the ethos of the first film, it did register a musical ensemble like the first one. The story is an adaptation of the graphic novel The Melting Pot by Kevin Eastman, Simon Bisley, and Eric Talbot. Just like Heavy Metal 1981, this movie indulges in gory graphic violence, nudity, and sex, which made it into an R-rated animated feature. Before we delve further into the story, let's review our central characters. First comes our no-nonsense action queen, Julie. She is tall, has dark flowing hair and wears a bodysuit, which gets ripped off at the right place to accentuate her body proportions. Julie can be both fragile and then let her anger rip off those who stand against her. She also embodies the sensuality depicted in her sister Kerry, who has shorter hair but is equally badass. At least in the original book, Tyler, the main antagonist, is heavy built and grows fangs when he touches immortality. But it's the crass dialogue that diminishes the character's intensity. Jermaine, the foe-turned-sidekick, not only adds a comic flair, but also rings in the romantic angle as he falls for Kerry. The other mysterious characters are an alien sage called Odin, and no, he has nothing to do with Norse mythology. Dr. Schechter is the second mysterious character who doesn't have eyes and is the resident mad scientist. Heavy Metal 2000 begins in space and rolls into a spaceship where excavator Tyler and his partner find a green crystal from a large chunk of an asteroid. As soon as Tyler touches the key, the curse of the key falls on him and tips Tyler into insanity. He kills off most of the crew except for Dr. Schechter and the pilots, Lambert and Jermaine St. Germain, while setting a new target. Although Heavy Metal 2000 does not explicitly confirm that the key is Loch Nar, it was sort of implied and later confirmed by the creators. Meanwhile, an ancient shrine opens up somewhere, emanating green light and a stone guardian, who is destined to stop the key from unleashing the evil. The key directs Tyler to the Fountain of Immortality, and it leads him to a planet called Eden, which is designated as FAKK2. Tyler invades Eden, kidnaps the people from the planet to extract immortal juice from them, and kills the rest, and one of the victims is the father of the beautiful and buxom sisters, Julie and Kerry. Drawing a sharp contrast, Kerry takes a hot shower, while Julie arrives outside Eden, dressed in black gear. While Kerry teaches kindergarten, Julie is a badass warrior and general. When Jermaine finds the beautiful Kerry in the wreckage, Tyler decides to keep her for his personal pleasure, but Jermaine opposes the idea. Something worked in Jermaine's favor that day, and Tyler keeps him stranded in Eden. However, he is not so lucky when Julie finds him and extracts information from him. Julie takes Jermaine with her to find Kerry and get her revenge. On their 4-day ride to a treacherous space station, Neo Calcutta, Jermaine could barely keep his mouth shut and annoyed Julie. Until she tied his mouth, Julie was voiced by Julie Strain, and the character is designed to her likeness. Julie Strain was a deity of 6 feet 1 inch. And so is Julie from Eden. When the movie was screened at the Sundance Film Festival, Julie Strain gave her interview while lying naked in a hot tub. In fact, it wouldn't be wrong to say that Julie Strain was one with the character. Leaving Jermaine in the streets as he invests in a sex bot, Julie ventures into a club and finds Tyler showing off his power. When Tyler tries to rape a waitress, Julie attacks him with a machine gun, but the mortally wounded Tyler gulps down his immortality serum to heal. A gunfight ensues, and Tyler leaves with his men before blowing up the club. He orders his men to take his ship for hyperspace travel to a planet called Ouroboros. Julie escapes the explosion, and Jermaine finds her. Julie takes her spaceship and latches onto Tyler's ship. As Lambert realizes that another ship is piggybacking on them, Tyler orders him to attack. The fight causes both ships to crash into Ouroboros. Tyler and Lambert find out that most of their crew and specimens from Eden are dead, but Tyler doesn't care as long as Dr. Schechter is alive. He asks the doctor to extract Kerry's fluids to create the elixir. Meanwhile, Julie gets separated from Jermaine and encounters a cloaked guardian called Odin and his assistant, the stone creature Zeke. While Zeke is not your average comic relief, he is a funny pet and sidekick, unless you are counting Jermaine.
I didn't do anything, I swear! You're one of them.
Odin and Zeke inquire of Julie if she has the key. The girl obviously has no clue about the key, except the key to vengeance. On that note, Tyler and his mates march onto Shantar, the domains of a reptilian race. He challenges the leader to a death match. In the meantime, Julie and her guides approach a river of lava. She finds an ugly, grisly creature called Chartog, who wants a kiss as payment to help her cross it. Julie resentfully agrees, and after a rather slimy exchange, Julie finds out Odin and Zeke have already arranged for a non-combustible boat. Needless to say, Chartog earns a punch in the face. Julie and her guides arrive at the death match and witness Tyler kill the leader and earn the reptilian army. After winning the bout, Tyler demands a concubine for pleasure. There is a running gag that each time Tyler tries to get laid, he gets interrupted, he fails to screw Kerry, and even voices the concern when he gets interrupted for the last time. Speaking of that, Julie dresses up seductively and enters Tyler's room. As they make out, Julie starts stabbing Tyler and destroys his vials of immortality serum. However, her tryst is interrupted by Zeke as he takes her away under the orders of Odin. Now, you must be wondering what happened to Jermaine. Well, he has survived the fall thanks to a parachute, and is found by a group of guardians of the Citadel that houses the Fountain of Immortality. However, Jermaine's fate is sealed in the graphic novel Melting Pot, where he dies after getting sucked out into space before Julie and Tyler crash on Ouroboros. On the other hand, he becomes Julie's brother-in-law in the heavy metal FAKK 2 game. Anyway, we are getting ahead of ourselves. Julie, Odin and Zeke find the crash site of Tyler's ship, where Dr. Schechter is about to extract the immortality fluid from Kerry. He is interrupted by an intruder alert, as Julie finds the ship filled with people from her land harvesting for the fluid. Julie rescues her sister, Kerry, and kills Dr. Schechter in the process. The creepy doctor is revealed to be an android scientist as he burns up in blue flames. Julie Strain's casting in the movie as the lead character is also due to the fact that she was then married to editor-in-chief Kevin Eastman. Eastman is also famous for co-writing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which tells a lot about the raw comedy added in the film. As the lab blows up, Tyler the megalomaniac screams in agony and promises to make Julie immortal so that he can screw her and kill her every hour. Despite the heavy criticism of Heavy Metal 2000, Michael Ironside's performance as Tyler is spectacularly bold. The reason for his anguish is the loss of immortal fluid. As he was left with only 3 vials of immortality, Tyler rallies his army to march to the Citadel to find the Fountain of Immortality. As for Julie, she gets a history lesson from Odin on the Aracatians. Odin tells the sisters that they carry a rare blood, which makes them the source of the immortality serum. Odin explains that the Aracatians were a malicious race that discovered the Fountain of Immortality from a tear in the fabric of the universe. The Aracatians enslaved Odin's ancestors to create a chamber that would hold the water of everlasting life. They developed an empire around it, but the empire fell when Odin's ancestors, the Guardian Sages, sealed the fountain and threw the key to the chamber in space, hoping no one could open it and get their hands on it. Apparently, the Aracatians stored some of the water of immortality in Eden, which seeped into the ground and now runs through the veins of Julie and Kerry. As Odin finishes his story, Julie promises to end Tyler's tyranny. Odin and Zeke bring Julie and Kerry to the Citadel, and Julie partakes in a ritualistic bath before gearing up in her warrior lingerie. The scene is very much a reminiscence of Tar-Nar's ritual before she leaves to fight the Green Barbarians in Heavy Metal 1981. It's also time for a reunion with Jermaine, and just in time, as Tyler's army has arrived to invade the Citadel and find the Fountain of Everlasting Waters. However, Tyler is not doing well. His fangs are falling and lines are appearing on his face. The battle ensues as all the Guardians, Zeke, Jermaine, Kerry and Julie, engage in fighting the lizard soldiers. Lambert gets impaled by an arrow and tries to get Tyler's healing serum, but Tyler tries to stop him. It causes the last vial to fall and the serum to spill. A furious Tyler slays Lambert for it. Finally, it's time for the ultimate face-off, as Tyler tries to insert the key and open the chamber of everlasting waters. He is stopped by Julie, who fatally stabs him. Tyler still seems to be winning as he overpowers Julie, but Odin intervenes, and Julie gets her moment of glory as she kills the main villain of the story. Now, if you are mistakenly assuming that this is the ultimate climax of the story, let us warn you about the hidden twist in the ending. But before that, let's talk about Billy Idol, who voices Odin. His name was teased even before the release of the film in March 1999. The rock star also ironically sings "Buried Alive" during the closing credits. Odin finally removes the cover from his face and reveals himself to be the last of the Aracatians. He cunningly claims to fool the rest of the Guardians and Zeke. As Odin unlocks the chamber with the key, a dark, swirling cloud appears on top of the hill, whereas the betrayal doesn't sit well with Zeke. The creature makes a momentous sacrifice by lifting off the key and traveling back to space, where it mingles with the rest of the asteroids. Becoming a part of the asteroid belt, as the doors to the chamber close again, Odin gets stuck and probably crushed inside it. Surely the song "Buried Alive" makes sense now. Jermaine and Kerry also help Julie, as the film ends with Jermaine chattering about forming a bond of friendship with Julie Heavy Metal. 2000 largely deviates from Heavy Metal 1981 in terms of plot, artwork and design. Personally, we loved the animation done on Soft Landing, Harry Canyon and B-17, which is largely missing in Heavy Metal 2000. Coming to the music, we loved how action sequences are accompanied by a meaningful metal soundtrack, which often surpassed the first movie apart from Buried Alive. There's Alcoholocaust by Machine Head, Missing Time by MDFMK, and Immortally Insane by Pantera. Unfortunately, that's where the good stuff ends. The movie has been a downer with failed special effects. The explosions look more like stock images than well-illustrated graphics, which does not sync with the rest of the animated background. The body horror on Chartog is not well justified, while there's a lot less nudity and a lot more cheap adult jokes, which makes it a flimsy one at best. Odin's big reveal as a greater evil is also a complete waste, as it happens in the last few minutes of the story. So we only get a "wait, what?" moment before Odin is sealed and everybody goes home. The movie still worked in gaining traction for the video game sequel, while there was a lot of buzz regarding a third film, which had big names like David Fincher, James Cameron, Zack Snyder, Guillermo del Toro, and others associated with it. Anyway, Fincher and Miller still released Love, Death and Robots on Netflix in 2019, riding on their heavy metal fantasy. If you would like a rewatch of both the movies, we suggest the Blu-ray version of Heavy Metal 2000 that was released on the 19th of April 2022, while Heavy Metal 1981 was made available in Ultra HD format on the same day. All things considered, even with its gory, tantalizing visuals and explicitness, Heavy Metal 1981 and 2000 tells stories of good triumphing over evil. It focuses on vices like greed, gluttony, lust, pride, and the sum of all evils personified by Loch Nar, especially how easily it tarnishes the human mind. Yet there's always someone who breaks the chain. Sometimes it's a simpleton like Den and Germain, while sometimes it's a woman in tights like Tana and Julie. Marvelous verdict. Heavy metal deserves every bit of its cult following and is a cornerstone of the groundbreaking works we see today. The stories were unabashed, unapologetic, and real. A satire on human emotions, perversion, and ambition. It also paved the way for modern-day animation, as a combination of different animation techniques was used to frame the stories. But what made it truly spectacular was the music that went along with it. But like always, we would like to hear your stories. Also, if you enjoyed watching the video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more of this animated nostalgia.